At the edge of a golden field, in a quiet little village surrounded by tall mountains, lived a man named Rahim. He was a humble, kind-hearted man in his late 50s, with gentle eyes that carried calmness even in the hardest of times. Rahim's life had never been easy. Years ago, he had lost his wife, and since then, he lived with his only daughter, Asha, in a small mud brick house near the village well. Their days were simple but filled with struggle. Rahim owned a tiny piece of farmland, just enough to grow crops for survival. There were days when even 2 meals felt like a blessing. And yet, no matter how difficult life became, Rahim never complained. Whenever people pitied him, he would simply smile and say, "Life is never unfair. We just don't always see the wisdom behind it." One morning, while working in his field, Rahim noticed something unusual. Near the crops lay a young injured falcon, weak and trembling. Most villagers told him to leave it. It's a wild bird, they said. It won't survive. But Rahim couldn't ignore it. He carefully carried the falcon home. With Asha's help, he cleaned its wounds, fed it grains, and gave it water. Slowly, the bird regained its strength. As weeks turned into months, the falcon grew strong and graceful. It would soar high above the fields and circle Rahim's house, but always return before sunset. It was as if the bird had chosen Rahim as its family. The villagers laughed. "Rahim wastes his time," they said. "One day that bird will fly away and never return." But Rahim only smiled and replied, "Maybe it will go, maybe it will stay. Whatever happens, there must be a reason." Then one afternoon, a wealthy landlord from the nearby city visited the village for hunting. When he saw Rahim's falcon flying gracefully in the sky, he was amazed. "That is no ordinary bird," he said. "It's rare, valuable, and trained. I'll pay you a fortune for it." The villagers were shocked. This was Rahim's chance to escape poverty. They whispered, "Don't be foolish this time. Sell the bird. This is your only way out." But Rahim shook his head kindly. "This bird came to me when it was weak. God gave it to me, not for money, but for a reason. How can I sell it?" The landlord left, confused and angry, while the villagers mocked him once again. Rahim will always stay poor. He doesn't know how to take opportunities. Days later, a stormy night came, and the falcon disappeared. Rahim searched everywhere but found no trace of it. The villagers laughed even louder. "See, we told you. You should have sold it. Now you have nothing." Isha cried, "Father, we lost it forever. Why didn't you sell it when you had the chance?" Rahim placed his hand on her shoulder and said, "My child, not everything we lose is a loss, and not everything we gain is a blessing. Time will show us the truth." Weeks passed until one bright morning, Rahim heard a familiar sound above his field. He looked up and saw the falcon returning, yet it wasn't alone. Behind it came 2 other falcons, wild and strong. They landed near Rahim's house as if the first falcon had brought its family home. The villagers were stunned. "This is unbelievable. Rahim is blessed. Now he has 3 rare falcons. He will become rich!" But Rahim showed no pride, no excitement, only gratitude. Encouraged by the villagers, Ash began training the falcons. She grew still, teaching them to fly close, to land on her arm, to respond to her call. But one unfortunate afternoon, one of the wild falcons panicked. In its struggle, it struck Asha, and she fell badly, breaking her arm. The villagers immediately changed their tone. "See, these birds are cursed. Rahim brought trouble upon his daughter. What a tragedy!" Asha wept in pain. "Father, this time it truly is bad. How can my broken arm be good?" Rahim, still calm, whispered, "Pain itself is not good, my child. But sometimes pain protects us from greater harm. Wait, and you will see." Only a month later, the country faced a sudden war. Soldiers came to the village, demanding every able-bodied young person for the army. They took boys and girls alike, forcing them to fight. But when they saw Asha's broken arm, they left her behind. The village was filled with sorrow as countless families lost their children to the war. The air was heavy with crying and grief. Many villagers came to Rahim, tears in their eyes. "You are truly blessed, Rahim. Your daughter was spared because of her injury. We mocked you, but God was protecting you all along." Rahim replied softly, "Don't call me lucky. Call me patient. For patience always shows us the wisdom of God's plan." But life was not done testing him. A year later, A terrible drought struck the land. Crops withered, wells dried up, and hunger spread through the village. People cursed their fate, and many abandoned their homes in search of food. But Rahim continued to till his dry land, watering his soil little by little, refusing to give up. Every morning, the falcons flew out and returned with prey fish from far rivers, small animals from distant fields. With their help, Rahim managed to survive the drought when many others starved. The villagers were astonished. This man never loses. When everyone suffers, he still finds a way to survive. How? Rahim answered simply, because I do not fight against life. I flow with it, and I trust the one who writes every chapter. Years passed. As agreeing to a wise young woman, she often remembered her father's words. Don't be proud in happiness. Don't be broken in hardship. Good or bad, only time will tell. One evening, as Rahim grew old and weak, she sat beside him and asked, "Father, after all these years, what is the greatest lesson you've learned?" Rahim smiled gently and said that everything passes. Wealth, poverty, joy, sorrow, none of it lasts forever. What stays is how we carried ourselves through it. If we are patient in hardship and humble in success, then we have already won. And that became his greatest inheritance. The wisdom that life's moments, whether bitter or sweet, are only chapters. What matters most is faith, patience, and gratitude. Because in the end, everything good or bad will pass. Moral: what looks like a loss today may save you tomorrow. What feels painful now may protect you from greater harm later. And what seems like a blessing today may turn into a trial tomorrow. So never rush to judge your circumstances. Trust God's plan, because only time can tell.